5 minutes after the hour of 10 a.m. Good morning, good morning. Welcome inside another edition of Casualty 911. Here with me this morning is Miss Wilson. All right, inside this beautiful Monday morning. Today is the 11th of September 2023. All right. Hey, again, I can mention, welcome inside. Miss Wilson, bonjour.
Bonjour, Erland. How are you?
Not bad, thanks.
All right. I hope all is well with you and the family.
By God's grace.
Oh, that's good. I know it's hot these days.
Boy, very hot.
All right. And I must admit, a lot of persons need to drink more water to keep, you know, the
Like
body.
hydrated, that's what you're talking about?
Yes,
I
very much so.
I can agree to disagree with you in terms of
Why?
water. Why right now we have studies, we have research that are showing that you have to be very careful with the amount of water you put in your body. It's better to use foods with water,
Like
like
water
watermelon. Yes,
content?
watermelon, cucumber. You know, and of course, I think with the you have to be careful. You have to put a little salt in the water too, or on your tongue.
On your tongue?
Yeah, because you know whenever you sweat, you perspire, your body
Loses
loses
the.
a lot of salt and all that.
Oh, wow. I must go back to the drawing board, Erland. But nonetheless, for those who are fortunate that can afford the watermelon and the cucumbers, but
And
you know water is
fruits, all those kind of things. Fruits, you understand?
wonderful. So this morning we have a guest with us. Just let me say good morning to all our listeners from Conwy, Soufre, Choiseul, all those persons online. It's a wonderful Monday morning. Let me say good morning to all our teachers, our students, back to school. Don't forget to start taking well. Hello. It's time for schoolwork. Stay off the laptops, the tablets, and the phone as long as it's not something pertaining to school or research. Do not spend your time wisely and manage your time wisely as you are at school once again. We're asking parents to supervise your children, ensure that they are ready for school, assist them with their homework, and play your part as parents. At the end of the day, our children are our pride and joy. So we want to ensure that they achieve their goals in life amidst all the challenges that they might have. Okay, Erland?
Definitely.
All right. So this morning we are here to speak about September 10th, was recognized as suicide prevention awareness month or day. And it's sad when you have experience someone like a family member or a friend or a community member that has actually done go through that act. It's really heartbreaking. It's really, I mean, the emotion, the hurt, the feeling is so overwhelming, I can tell you that. But then, amidst it all, we want to create awareness. And this month, the theme is creating hope through action. And that's all we're asking. We as community members play our part. We as individuals, family members, play our part in assisting with suicide prevention. And to tell you the truth, we've had quite a bit of activities for Suicide Prevention Month, and we're hoping to create more awareness and to reduce the stigma and, through in our community, create awareness in our community, the public, workplaces, all around us, that suicide is actually preventable and we just have to play our part. So, really? It is, Erland?
Yes.
Of course it is. And let me just say, this morning I would like to welcome Nurse Felix. Jana, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
We're good. Sorry for the late start.
That's okay.
Okay. And now, Nurse is no stranger to our program. I think she has been on our program a few times from since last year or 2 years back.
I
Um,
think last
so
year.
no, when
Last year.
last year,
Hmm.
wonderful, and it's always a pleasure having you here today, Nurse.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So this our topic is suicide prevention. So I'll allow you to start off with our topic.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Um, as my colleague stated earlier, this year's theme, as a matter of fact, it's been a triennial theme. So this year is the final year that that theme is going to be used, creating hope through action. They began using it in 2021, and so this year will be the final year for its use. But this year we really wanted persons to become aware of some of the myths and facts surrounding suicide, intention, suicide awareness, and how suicide affects the family and the community on a whole. Because it is proven that with every suicide, every actual suicide, that at least 8 persons begin contemplating committing suicide. And we would like to prevent, our goal is prevention, because suicide is 100% preventable. And the problem is a lot of people are not aware of the services that are available or the help that they can receive to alleviate their situation.
Nurse, I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
You didn't hear me at all?
Did you hear Erlan?
We had a small technical glitch.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Okay, Nurse. Sorry about that. Um,
So you want me to start again? I can.
yes, yes,
Okay.
please. Yes, please.
What I was saying was that the theme Creating Hope Through Action is a triennial theme. It began in 2021. So this year, 2023, will be the final year that it would be used. And there is a lot of focus on the facts and myths surrounding suicide awareness, suicide intention, and how suicide affects family members and the community at large. Because with every complete suicide, at least 8 persons contemplate suicide. And we know that suicide is 100% preventable. And so we want to ensure that persons are aware that there is help available for them.
Okay. I'm really glad you said that it is 100% preventable. And, you know, that we as the Ministry of Health do offer services.
Yes.
We have services available to help people out. So, in mentioning that, nurse, I know that would be the last thing, but I want it to be one of the first things and the last things mentioned. What services do we have available to our public out there?
Well, currently we have 3 psych nurse practitioners, 2 community health nurses, 4 community mental health aides, 1 psychiatric doctor, 1 psychiatric registrar, and 1 psychotherapist on our team that is available island-wide from Grosley to Viewfort, passing through both the West Coast and the East Coast. We are available island-wide for mental health services. And there are different days, of course, because the team is still pretty small. So there are different days that the teams would be at various wellness centers. Would you mind if I give the days that they would be present.
Go ahead, nurse.
Okay, so every every first Monday of the month, there will be a team representative at the Saltibus, Monrepo, and ancillary health centers. Every first Wednesday at the Denry and Babono Wellness Center. Of course, we provide coverage at the Bolele facility as well. Every first Thursday, Lafargue Health Center. First Friday, Mikud Wellness Center. Second Monday, Vieux-Fort, Delse, Tiroche Castries, and Monchy. Second Tuesday, Deriso, Bellevue Vieux-Fort, and Canaries. Second Wednesday, Fossé Jacques. Second Thursday, Tiroche Micoud, Richfort, Soufre, Ciceron, Foasson. Second Friday, Grace, Entrepot, and Micoud. Third Monday, Denry, Vanna, and Laguerre. Third Tuesday, Labry, Montgouge, and Deriso. Third Wednesday, Richfort. Third Thursday, Jacmel and Grosley Polyclinic. Third Friday, Vieux-Fort and Castries. Fourth Monday, Bellevue and Vieux-Fort. Fourth Tuesday, Itangs, Leclerc and Graniver Grosley. Fourth Wednesday, Lacroix. Fourth Thursday, Monrepo, Tirose, Soufre, and Bexon.
Thank you so very much, nurse. Or persons within the community can call the nearest wellness center.
Yes,
If you have not grasped the day for the clinics, you can go to your nearest health wellness center and find out from our health professional what day the team will be available at your wellness center. So,
definitely.
yeah. So, nurse, since we're on the topic of suicide and so on, I know many of us, I mean, we're at home and you hear people say, they want to commit suicide or they feel that and many of us do not know the signs as it relates to suicide. So can you guide us a little bit about the warning signs of suicide for persons around, just give them a few little tips about what should we look for, especially persons that go from many problems, or persons that even show that you know like you think they might not have any issues. So, what are some of the warning signs of suicide?
Okay, actually, you did mention one of the warning signs, which is talking about wanting to die or wanting to kill yourself. Some people are bold enough, or sometimes when they're going through some heavy emotions, they may end up being open enough to say that that is truly how they have been feeling for a while, that they want to die or they want to kill themselves. Sometimes they talk about feeling empty, or they talk about feeling hopeless, or they say that there is no other reason for them to live. Sometimes you hear them say those things when they have lost their jobs, when they have lost a loved one, either through death or a break in a relationship. Sometimes you hear them talk about that when it comes to their studies. Sometimes they may have failed more than one semester and they start feeling like they're hopeless, like they're quote unquote stupid or unintelligent, and if they're unable to meet their educational goals, then they no longer have a reason to live or to survive. Sometimes they talk about feeling trapped or feeling like they have exhausted all possible solutions to whatever problem that they're going through, and so they feel like there's no other solution. But the flip side to that is that about 80% of the time, they may have exhausted only solutions that they thought about in isolation. They're not thinking of the possibility of different solutions from somebody that can assist them with their situation, like a family friend, a work colleague, a psychotherapist, a psychiatric nurse, somebody in the community, a mentor, anybody else that they can speak to. They may have different solutions that they may have not tried. And so that's why we're saying that suicide is 100% preventable, because if we take a community approach to it, then persons would realize that there is not just support, but there are other means available that they may not be aware of. You find persons talk about feeling unbearable emotional and physical pain. A lot of persons tend to believe that depression is something that happens only with your emotions, but persons who are suffering with major depression also complain about physical pain. Because as you know, your mind affects your body and everything that happens with your body. And so they do feel physical pain as well. Persons also talk about feeling like a burden to others. They feel like, for instance, they have been out of employment for a very long period of time, sometimes years, and they feel like they're financially um, like they're financially a burden towards whoever it is that's taking care of them, whether it be their parents or their wife, their husband, their children. They feel like a burden and they no longer want to feel like a burden to those people, especially if it does not appear that there is any um, silver lining or any light at the end of their tunnel. They may begin to do things like withdrawing from friends and family members. So if you used to get a daily call, you would notice that the daily call becomes a twice weekly call, and then it slowly dwindles to maybe once a fortnight thereabout. So they begin to withdraw. They stop coming to family activities. They stop checking on you the way that they used to, etc. They may start doing things like giving away things that are very important to them. Sometimes it could be a card collection, it could be a coin collection, it could be items of clothing or household items that that they cherish. They may begin to give it away to persons that they're very close to. They may even sometimes call to say that they truly appreciate everything that that you have been doing for them, and they just want you to know that they love you and they care about you. And if anything were to happen to me, I want you to know that I love you, that I care about you, that I appreciate you, that nothing you did for me went unseen, etc. They may use words such as those. They may start putting their affairs in order, like making a last will and testimony, or start telling close family members that if anything were to happen to them, they would like them to give away this to whichever person they want this sort of funeral arrangements to be made, etc. They may talk about thinking about death often. They may be open about that the fact that they've been considering their problem, and every time they think about their problem, they think about death and how peaceful death can be, and how death can erase all of the problems that they're going through in their life, etc. Sometimes they may experience mood swings, or they may even start doing things like drinking alcohol more, start taking illicit drugs, etc. I covered quite a bit, I know.
I know. I was trying to follow up and say, "Oh my goodness," but nurse, um,
And that's not even all. There's a lot more, but I
yeah,
know I'm covering
reading,
a
I
lot,
can
so I
tell
don't
you
want to
there
give
is a lot
too
more.
much at
So,
once.
nurse, many of us, I mean, we're in relationships, and sometimes, um, you can have some really hurtful and harmful experiences in relationship that might contribute to that kind of risk. Can you just name a few things within a relationship that will trigger somebody to be kind of suicidal or contemplating or thinking of such? I mean, many people are in relationship, and it can really bring out these kind of thoughts in people. Just to
Mhm.
name a few for persons that are actually in relationships, and they might have that kind of thinking, just to allow family members, if they're seeing all these signs and so on within somebody's relationship. I mean, there sometimes you never know who's going through that kind of thinking. So, can you give us one or two risk factors in relationship that can actually get somebody into that kind of thinking?
Okay, so when you say relationship, I could take it to mean relationship in more than one way, but
Oh,
I believe you're thinking about um, intimate relationships.
yes, like husband and wife, boyfriend and
Okay.
girlfriend,
Okay. In intimate relationships, you find there
husband.
sometimes can be one of the partners can be very controlling and they can be very threatening to the other partner. Oftentimes, you find a male to be that individual. However, there are relationships where women are the controlling partner and they are the abusive partner and they are the threatening partner. And you find sometimes in that abuse, in that physical abuse, there is also emotional and psychological abuse. So their partner tends to make them feel like nobody else loves them, nobody else will do for them what they're doing for them, nobody else would take care of them the way that they do. And if there was a break in the relationship, that they would amount to nothing because they are nothing and they are really the value. So if I was in a relationship with you, I would make you feel like I am what brings value to you in your life. So if you were to break up with me, you would no longer be valuable. And so you find when people feel very trapped in those situations, especially in a small community, like in a small country like ours, where you can literally drive around the country in about 2.5 hours, you find if the abused, if the victim feels like they want to run away or escape from that relationship and they have no overseas possibilities, that they may consider, they may contemplate suicide, or they may even attempt suicide because it may appear to be the only way out for them. Like I said, those persons tend to be in very controlling relationships. So even family members would notice some distancing in their relationship. They would notice changes in their moods or in their behaviors. Sometimes that individual could have been very jovial, very happy, a very social person, and like they're like a social butterfly. They're always out there. They're making friends. They're a people's person, and then suddenly they're 2 3 years into a new relationship and they're completely different, and I mean a complete 180 difference. They no longer go out. They wear excess makeup. Sometimes they wear the makeup to hide the bruises. They're very timid, very shy. They no longer speak the way they used to. Sometimes they may even complain about feeling physical pain, um, or feeling extremely stressed or distressed about their situation, but they may be very fearful about talking about their relationship for fear that their partner would hurt or injure them because they're in a relationship where they're walking on eggshells.
Thank you, nurse. I like the fact that you said about the bruises, the covering it with the makeup. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not only the men, sometimes it could be the women that dominate in the relationship. I'm
Yes.
glad you said both of them rather than just the men, because when we look at relationship, we always believe men are the ones that are very dominating in the
Right.
relationship, but women can also be very, very dominating.
Yes, and
Um,
very abusive.
yes, very. I can say, well, I mean, I, 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 let me just hold that comment to myself. Um, Yes, most women can, and so for the ladies out there, I mean, traditionally we believe it's only men, but women also can be dominating factors in the in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Miss, I know you spoke about many issues, but um, our young people, um, many of our young people in society, there are so many attempts
Mm-hmm.
um, when it comes to suicide, and because of how society, the pressures of society,
Mm-hmm.
the pressures among their peers. Can you just touch base on one or two factors that can lead our young persons into, attempting suicide? Most of them attempt. I'm not sure about the statistics in St. Lucia, how many young people actually committed suicide. But you hear a lot of young persons attempt suicide during their teen years or early 20s. Yes. And so, what are some of the factors that can actually trigger such among our young people?
Well, um, the era, first of all, I want to say the era that I grew up in and
Mm-hmm.
the current one are extremely different.
Very much so.
So you find bullying to be one of the biggest issues there is now. And I would say bullying because not to say there was no bullying in my time or the time before my time, but there are more avenues for bullying now than there was 20, 30, 40 years ago. Before, you mostly had to deal with bullying at school, and home became a safe space for persons. But now, home is no longer a safe space because you could be bullied at school, and then you're bullied on the internet, and then you go through bullying in the community because I find back then the community raised a child. And now the parents are a lot more sensitive about persons even correcting their children, that the community no longer raises the children. The parents want to be the sole guiders for the children. And sometimes, even in that, you find that there are less people that the child can run to now. Back then, because the community raised the children, there were a lot more people that the child could have run to for help. The child would have felt more comfortable running to a lot more people because although you were disciplined by the elders in the community, the elders also guided you. They also provided you with wisdom. They were also a listening ear because not all the time you have that communication type of relationship with your family members. So you could not always go to them to talk to them, and that even stands now. But the fact is now that there's less people for you to run to because you're afraid of being judged instead of being guided. You're more afraid of being judged for your situation now in the era of telephones, and everything is being recorded and everything is being posted, and nobody thinks about the well-being of the individual or the family, how it affects the family, what they're recording. I remember a long time ago you used to be able to dance stupidly. It could be to music in a party, it could be in your own backyard, it could be anywhere. And you could do that fearlessly because you're simply just having fun and you're enjoying yourself. But now you have to be so mindful
Mhm.
about even being in your own house. You have to be so mindful about being in your own backyard. You can't eat a certain way, you can't dance a certain way, you can't behave a certain way because the cameras are always so readily available. And something that can start off as being so innocent as you even just enjoying your meal or you um, dancing funnily to something, you can end up being bullied online and get thousands of messages from people that don't even know you, that know nothing about you, that know nothing about your background, and they're just simply judging you. And so that's why bullying has become so much of a big thing now. And you find a lot of persons, a lot of young ones, both locally and internationally, a lot more young people are attempting suicide than in the past. And a lot of them are starting with something that we call self harm. So, but street talk, it's normally called cutting. So, a lot of them start off with cutting, and you find a lot of persons who do try self harm, who do practice self harm, do end up attempting suicide in the long run. So, I would say one of the biggest factors to our young people um, attempting suicide is bullying. And if I had to put something in second place, I would put expectations. And when I say expectations, it would cover peer pressure. So you have your individual, your personal expectations of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to deal with not knowing what you want to be yet, but be almost feeling pressured to make a decision when you're still finding yourself. So you have your personal pressure, then you have peer pressure because you want to please your friends, but you also don't want to go against the values that your family or your church or whatever religion or God that you believe in. You don't want to you know disappoint them. So you have that peer pressure. Then you want to make your parents happy, but and sometimes they never even seem to be happy because the in our culture, parents are more into disciplining than they are into uplifting. So your child would do good, and they would just maybe make a one little comment. Your child wouldn't do well at school, and they're all of a sudden the worst child in the house. Some of them even resort to punishing the child because they didn't do well. So the discipline is not balanced with uplifting them. And then they want to make their teachers happy. So all of those expectations, all of that pressure that is placed on them, and of course, one of the things that schools don't focus on is individual upliftment. So subjects such as emotional intelligence and anger management, those are things that are not tackled on a school level, and it should be tackled on a school level because as individuals we all need that in our growth and in our development.
Thank you, Nurse. I'm so glad you touched on quite a bit as it relates to our young people and persons attempting suicide. And I love the fact that you mentioned about parental intervention and also the expectations of society. I really like the fact that you mentioned that. In reading on this topic, one of the questions I saw and I said, "Oh, I really have to ask you," um, is that I know many people still have that, you know, that thinking that only people with mental health conditions are suicidal. Is that true, Nurse?
um, Although depression is a mental health concern and it's one of the factors that can contribute to suicide, persons with mental health issues are not the only persons that commit or attempt suicide. As a matter of fact, that's one of the myths associated with suicide because a lot of people tend to believe that even persons who are prominent or appear to be in good standing or they appear to be well put together in society, a lot of people will look at them and never even think that they are contemplating suicide simply because they appear to be well put together. But we do not know the internal struggles that they are going through. And they need to realize, just like you and me and every other person in society, we all wear a mask when we're out there. We show people what we want people to see. Unfortunately, a lot of persons with mental illnesses can't wear a mask, especially if they're symptomatic. But some of us who are very lucid and we have no mental illness doesn't mean that we are not going through internal battles and we're not wearing that mask. And that's why we should not only look for persons who are mentally ill, but it could be our close family member, it could be our children, it could be our friend, it could be a co-worker, persons we may assume are well, may be going through a lot and eventually attempt suicide.
I'm happy you said that because in the past, that's what everybody, used to think, most persons used to think. It's only mental health conditions, persons with mental health conditions actually are suicidal. So now we want to create a little bit more awareness. So I
Mhm.
thought it fitting to ask such a question. I'm so happy you spoke about that. Um, I have one more question, Liz. Just give me a minute.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I wrote it down. I'm still looking for it. Oh yes. Next, I meant to ask about stigma. I know many persons, and one of the things that persons that are diagnosed with certain illnesses, sometimes the stigma within the community can really trigger not only different medical conditions, but different actions that persons might partake in the community can really trigger persons to be suicidal. Because I remember some years ago, a gentleman in our community performed an act, and I mean, the stigma, the pressure that was placed on this gentleman really, really triggered him, to commit the act. And at that time, you as a member of the community, feel that you actually, persons never saw that kind of thing happening because it was quite a shock because
Mhm.
you thinking, okay, you just joking or giving jokes, and here the person actually committed suicide. Can you speak a little bit about stigma and these kind of jokes that people give to persons and so on, and people really cannot take on these pressures of the community. So can you speak a little bit about stigma as it relates to suicide?
Actually, stigma and lack of awareness are two of the biggest barriers to persons accessing the services that are available to them, because there is such a strong stigma attached to depression and suicide that a lot of persons don't even talk about it. Sometimes some persons even believe if they so much as mention or bring it up to somebody else. For instance, you may see the changes in your friend, but you're fearful of asking your friend if they thought about killing themselves because you believe that it would cause them to now think about it. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. As a matter of fact, it opens the communication between you and that individual. It lets the individual know, hey, I can reach out. There is somebody that is open about talking about what I'm going through. So I now become open to talking to them about how I feel. And that somebody may have access to or may be knowledgeable about the services that are available, the counseling services, the social work services, the support services that may be available to me for me to be able to get the help that I need. And that is why we all throughout the year, we try to preach suicide. And it is simply to break the stigma. I don't know if you remember years ago, a very, very, very long time ago, before people were so open about their diagnosis of being diabetic or hypertensive, a lot of persons were very tight-lipped about it. They were not talking about it. They were not open about it simply because they were ashamed, and there was a stigma attached to being diabetic and hypertensive back then. The ministry made a huge move of making it a common thing, that it is something that it's important for people to know. Once they know, it means that you can get help. It can prevent you from going into a hypoglycemic coma. It means that you can get individualized care quicker if you are open about your history. And now a lot of people are very open about it, and there's very little stigma attached to being diabetic and hypertensive. And so we're trying to do the same thing in breaking the stigma attached to not just suicide but mental illnesses as well, because suicide can stigma can be a very big barrier in preventing somebody from accessing the help that they need to prevent them from attempting suicide.
Thank you, nurse. In saying this about the being diabetic and hypertension, I know a lot of young people. I mean, they too tend to hide it. Especially the young men and young women, they tend to hide it. And although it's slowly changed throughout the older persons, but now the younger people that are diagnosed tend to hide it even more. Like you see a little history repeating itself. And I'm so glad you said about awareness as it relates to suicide throughout the year, because I think that's something that, it's not something that we should just be speaking about only when it's Suicide Awareness Month. And I know that the mental health team have been doing quite a bit as it relates to community awareness, as it relates to suicide prevention. And I'm so glad you said it's something throughout the year.
Yes.
So I'm really happy about it. Having said that, nurse, is there any message that you would like to leave out there for our community members before we close?
Um, Actually, I want to call on the private businesses to
Mm-hmm.
be more open to having health fair type activities for your employees, to allow various teams to come in and provide health services for the employees, because we found that a lot of persons who are in need of both medical and psychological health services are not accessing those services because of the daily busy lifestyle. And the few private organizations that have reached out to the ministry and have requested the teams to come out have seen an improvement in the quality of work and productivity that they get from their staff, simply because their staff now they're at work and they have an opportunity. They're given time that is not taken away from their salaries, or it's or is not deducted at all from them. They are given time to access every single piece of those services to ensure that their employees are of good health. Because at the end of the day, the employees are the ones that make up the organization. They're the ones that put in the hard work. They're the ones that come in daily. They're the ones that are expected to be productive. However, sometimes the hours of work, sometimes financial constraints prevent them from even accessing the medical services that are free in the community. But because it falls within their work time, they don't have the time to go and see a doctor. And so when the organization brings us in, they get that full service while they're at work. So they're able to open to us emotionally and psychologically, the mental health team. They're able to see a general practitioner, and they get their they're able to see a nutritionist, and they also get their blood sugar, blood pressure, weight, height, waist circumference. They get to know what their BMI is, so that they can make the necessary changes in their life to become healthier. And if we produce healthier individuals, then we'll generally have a healthier country.
Thank you, Nurse. Having said that, I'm so happy you said about the workplaces, and about the different services that the ministry offers, even to the workplaces, and they should really take advantage of these services that are being offered free of charge. And
Yes,
many of the workers, sometimes when we go out there and to these health fairs, they are so happy. Some of them, they have
exactly.
so many questions,
Mm-hmm.
and they and many of them, after dialogue with them, you see them come, you say make an effort to come to our
Mm-hmm.
wellness centers and so on. Even when you meet them on the roadside, on the streets, they'll say, but miss, we came and whatever whatever, and so on and so on. They are so happy for that level of guidance. And some of them are not even aware of all the services, but um, because we came to these workplaces, they're more cool with all the services that we offer, and we're
Yes.
better able to guide them as a health team. I'm so happy you said about that. Another thing I want to remind persons of is, if you know of someone that needs the services of our mental health team, a family member, a colleague, a friend, community members, don't hesitate to contact your wellness center,
Mm-hmm.
your closest wellness center, and find out which days the teams are available, right, nurse, at our
Yes.
various wellness
Wellness
centers
centers.
island
Yes.
wide. Yeah. Um, So again, we would like to thank Nurse Felix for coming on our program. It's always a pleasure having you here. Um, I particularly enjoy having the programs with you. I do not know why. Maybe it's the tone of voice is quite calming and cooling. And I hope that our listeners, do take it. The only thing that we forgot is to say our contact number. So if anybody wants to call in, then
So they
and
can ask questions next time.
next time, hopefully next time we will remember. Again, nurse, the information given out there, I can tell you it will go a long way. I mean, it's a lot. It's
It
a
is.
lot, but eventually, little by little will actually sink in, and
Yes.
persons will now, try to come to our wellness centers and get the service.
Yes.
A gentle reminder to all our um, community members. Don't forget we have the men's health clinic at Sufer Hospital every first and third Wednesday of every month. We're asking all our um, male figures to come and take care of your health. We're seeing more of the females coming to get the services at the wellness center. We're encouraging the young men to come and get the services, come and speak to your doctor, come and have a relationship with your doctor at the men's health clinic. Let them guide you and so on. If you're seeing signs and symptoms of any illnesses, don't hesitate to come to the wellness centers on their medical clinic days or the men's health clinic at Sufre Hospital every first and third Wednesday of every month. All right. Ellen, am I missing out on anything? On point. So again, thank you so very much, nurse. Do have a wonderful day and week. And
Thank
I
you, you as
hope
well.
I didn't hear that, nurse.
I said thank you, you as well.
Thank you so very much. All right. Ulan,